Okay, so now you're probably thinking, now what? What do I do? Because this far, what have we done? We started out with laying the right foundation. I'm always going to review, okay? So laying the right foundation, we have identified where we are standpoint, where is our body, what are our goals, getting ourselves organized, cleaning out the house, slowing down to speed up. Then we move into the hormone reset cleanse, where we're going to reset, basically do a reset button, right? Push a button on our metabolism, on our hormones, on our gut. So the hormone reset cleanse, specific ratio breakdown in order to reduce the inflammation, to start healing your gut and start supporting your liver to open up those metabolic pathways. When we do those three things, then we start to really make an impact with the dysfunction of imbalances when it comes to our hormones. Okay. Then you did a reintroduction. Reintroduction is identifying those foods that you love that might not love you back, foods that you're intolerant to. Because you've heard me say it and you'll hear me say it over and over again in different sessions. When you're taking in foods that your body's intolerant to, and I'm not saying it's absolute, like I always talk about, I'm 90-ish% gluten-free, dairy-free, corn-free because I'm intolerant to them. But here are the facts. When you take in foods that you're intolerant to and or foods that your body that are just, that your body doesn't recognize inorganic, there's this chemical crap storms, then it creates an irritation. Where we have irritation, we have inflammation. Where we have inflammation, we have gut disruption. Where we have gut disruption, we have liver dysfunction. You've heard me say this over and over again, and I'm going to keep saying it until you really get it. I'm going to keep saying it until you can teach this yourself. Not really, but yeah. Actually, kind of. So now where are we? Now we're going through what we call our hormone macro code, carb tolerance or intolerance profile, diagnostic. I use those words profile and diagnostic interchangeably. What is it? Why do we do it? How is it going to help you? Let's talk about that for a second. First, the hormone macro code, understanding what that is for you. Reason we talk about that, reason we have coined that phrase or that specific, I don't even know, you know, title. I don't know what to call it, but it's a combination of things. The hormone macro code we have designed, and it's our proprietary system. And it's basically your personal roadmap to nutrition and lifestyle that aligns with your body's unique hormonal profile. But it's not just about your hormones. As you're learning, the more you follow me, the more that you're in our programs, there's so many variables. You'll hear me say that over and over again. And even though hormones are really important, there's other things that are just as important or equally important that play a role in how you feel or how you're aging, how your hormones are working with you or against you, all of, just the state of your overall well-being and health. So we take in the factors, critical factors like your carb tolerance, like your hormone balance, like your genetics, and your health conditions. Do you have PCOS? Do you have a sluggish thyroid? Do you have Graves' disease? Do you have Crohn's? Do you have any type of autoimmune? Have you had kids? No kids. Have you had a surgery? No surgeries. Any medication? No medication. All of these things play a role in where you are right at this given moment. And it needs to be pinpoint to give you the best approach for you to feel and look your best, to be healthy, fit, and strong, no matter your age. It's all about quality of life. So our carb tolerance is one of the key pieces when it comes to really identifying your specific personalized hormone macro code. Okay. We coined the phrase hormone macro code for this reason. And then I'm going to tell you about the carb tolerance. For years, Ryan and I, we've been in the industry, as you know, a gazillion years when dinosaurs started. And at least that's how it feels. But we used to teach low glycemic. And there's a lot of good studies behind low glycemic, but there's also a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of downside to low glycemic. And people will always ask me, well, what do you think of low glycemic? Or why don't you teach it anymore? What about keto? What about paleo? What about carnivore? What about Whole30? What about this? And it comes down to where your body is at that given time. One of the things we shifted to macros, and I talk about this when I talk about calories and macros and what are your macronutrients. The reason that we shifted from low glycemic to macros is for this. Okay, calories, as you've heard me say before, calories will help determine your weight loss, but macros will help determine how fit, strong, you know, what your physique looks like. And then the quality of those macronutrients will determine how healthy you are, how healthy you feel, and how you age, whether you age poorly or whether you age healthily. Okay. And one of the things that we were able to identify, and I talk about this again when I talk about the module or the session, when I'm talking about calories and macros, you can do Whole30, you can do Atkins, you can do keto, you can do low glycemic, but what happens when you plateau? Because they're just telling you how to do certain food groups or how to eliminate crap, but they're not really getting specific in the macronutrients of what your body needs. So at first you might get results by default because it's energy in, energy out, and maybe you're doing quality to compared to what you were doing before. But what do you do when you plateau? You can't eat more keto. You can't eat more low glycemic. You can't cut out more foods, right? So eventually you're not going to be eating anything. And with macros, what we were able to identify, like I said, this helps determine your physique because everyone is bio individual. And it's not only going to help determine your physique, once you clean up your system, it helps determine how the quality of your metabolism. And a healthy metabolism is a healthy life, period. So with macros having the different ratios of protein for your weight, different carbohydrates based on your weight and activity and muscle mass versus fat based on the amount of fat that you take in for the same thing, based on your weight, your activity, your muscle to fat ratio, and then throw another one in there based on your hormonal imbalances that you might be dealing with. We were able to get better results with macronutrients and be able to teach more food freedom with macronutrients and empower people. We educate them. And I talk about the foods of quality of food. Is there crap food out there? Yes. But we don't subscribe to the whole idea of good, bad, right, wrong, pass, fail. We're all about customization, what's going to fit into your lifestyle, what's going to help you reach your goal and feel your best. So where does carb tolerance come in? Even though we got really great results, one of the things that we found that there was a majority of women that would come through our system and doing macros that didn't respond right away to their macronutrient ratios, even though the numbers and the calculators and all our formulas said this is what they should be doing. So we were constantly having to do a test phase with them. We were constantly having to measure, monitor, and adjust, which is not bad because, you should always be measure, monitoring, adjusting. You track data in order for you to measure, monitor, and adjust to decide, are you happy with your results right now? Where do you need to improve on the actions that you're taking? Where do you want to go with what the results that you've gotten so far? But with all of that being said, the issue, one of the things that we found is that even though carbs are really important, it goes back to the variables and being bio-individual. Depending on where your system is right now, you might have a wrecked metabolism and your hormones are out of whack. So even the healthiest amount of carbohydrates, you have problems processing them and breaking them down and having them work for you. So that's why the ratios, like if you just go do a macro calculator, and there's all different types of calculators out there, and then we have our own formulas that work. might not work for you right away. So you're constantly playing the game. So what we were able to do is put it in a systematic approach and identify key factors that tell us, okay, this individual needs to do maybe a little bit lower carb for a period of time, or this individual can do high carb, or this individual, whatever. So we've added this in to our system. That's one of the things when I talk about, what we do is the last thing that you will ever do. Like, as long as you stay active within our programs and our club, anytime we find a better way, anytime science evolves, anytime we say, okay, this needs to be done and this is what they need to know, we update our information. We're constantly improving to make sure that we are helping women get the very best results and have the very best tools to make it easy for them. So that's where the carb tolerance profile or diagnostic came about. What is it? It's that carb tolerance. It tells us how your body handles the carbohydrates, whether they give you energy and satisfaction, or do they leave you bloated? Do they leave you sluggish? Do they leave you craving more? Do they make you feel, ooh, right? Knowing where you fall on a carb tolerance scale can reveal why certain macros, as I just shared with you, don't work or work for you. And it helps guide us, or actually helps us put the system together to set you up for the right macronutrient ratios. So you're constantly moving forward and getting the results that you want and you deserve. Okay. So with all of that being said, at this point, you should have done your carb tolerance profile or diagnostic. It was given to you right from the very beginning. Once you got your hormone macro code calculator, you might have done it and said, okay, what do I do with this? Well, now you know what to do with it. You're like, then not only what you know what to do with it, you're like, oh, I took it, but I don't know what it means. That's what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about your results and your scoring. Okay. So for the scoring, if you scored from 0 to 8 points, that means that you have a very high carb tolerance, meaning that you thrive on carbohydrates. You don't struggle to lose weight. Carbs leave you feeling energized. You actually even you eat some individuals that have this, you usually have a very high muscle mass. You have a quality cleaned up system. You strength train on a regular basis, and or you just genetically have one of those metabolisms that thrive on high amounts of carbohydrates. Like, for example, Ryan not only thrives on high amount of carbohydrates, he thrives on high amount of calories because he's a lean, mean, fat burning machine. And our goal by identifying this for you and taking you through the steps is to make you a lean, mean, fat burning machine at any age. Because again, a fast, healthy, strong metabolism means that you are healthy and strong, and it's going to help you age healthfully. So you enjoy a variety of different carbohydrates. You don't have a hard time breaking down. See, because some people, they can do carbohydrates, but then it's specific type of carbohydrate they don't work well with their digestive system. You pretty much can take in whatever, even refined carbohydrates, even though those highly refined palatable carbohydrates might not be great for you, like on an inflammation level. Metabolism wise is like you just burn it up and use it. You have no issues, and you progress well on a moderate to moderately high carb intake relative to other macros. My brother was one of those individuals. He has trouble gaining weight. He was only one of us out of 7. All the rest of us don't have that issue. So that's the score. This is the individual, and I'll talk about like what you do as far as you're jumping right into our full-fledged macro basic calculator. Like, you can use any type of macro calculator and you're going to respond well to it as long as it's giving you the right amount of carbohydrates. Then there's moderate carb tolerance. This is 10 to 18 points. This is me. You can gain weight easily, but you also lose it when you're focused in. While you need to watch the quantity or type of carbohydrates, they don't derail your progress. Occasionally you crave sweets, but it's manageable. You feel your best when eating whole, healthy carbs, but may notice more cravings when you indulge in refined carbohydrates. That is me all day long. I used to be very low carb tolerance. And that's because my system was out of whack. But then once I was able to get my system in whack, I was able to, in whack, corrected, fixed, however you want to call it. In whack can be our new term. Let's get it in whacked. Then I started processing the carbohydrates better, right? See, I was at a point to where even a healthy carbohydrate, and I'm using air quotes, would just make me feel sluggish and I would get tired. Okay. Now, when I'm on point, doing my gluten-free, doing my quinoa or my potatoes or beans and lentils, those type of carbohydrates, sweet potatoes, even, as long as it's like gluten-free pasta, rice, gluten-free tortillas, like I'm great, process them great, feel great, but it's the refined that can push me over the edge. So if it's too highly refined and if it's like a lot of sugar, like that type of refined, highly palatable, refined sugary sweets, which I absolutely love, I don't respond well. It throws my digestion off. I get really bloated. Even perfect example, like combining fat and carbohydrates. Pizza is one of my favorite foods, but it's very high in fat. People are always like, oh, it's a carb. No, it's really higher than fat. And then it isn't, then it has the carbs and then it has protein. For me, like when I eat pizza, I can eat a few slices or I can sit down and eat the whole thing. It doesn't matter. I had 2 slices. I still feel like I ate the whole pizza. Like I'm stuffed for hours, right? Because I just don't process it well. And that's also telling me it's the amount of fat and my gallbladder. Okay, but that's another conversation. And I want to do a little sidetrack here. Understand carbohydrates, as I talk about in our calorie and macro session, carbohydrates are not the enemy. Carbohydrates are super important, and carbohydrates don't make you gain weight. It's not you're like, but Lydia, I don't respond well to carbohydrates. Yes, but it's not the carbohydrate, it's the imbalance. It's the resistant insulin and high amounts of glucose where your body's not processing the carbohydrate properly. The cool thing is that can be corrected. Now, also note, when we eat carbohydrates, and I talk about this like with the scale, you're saying, but Lydia, I'll eat pizza or I'll eat potatoes or I'll eat bread, whatever, and I get on the scale and I gain weight. Well, and you're on the scale the next day because you retain water. For every 1 gram of carbohydrate, starchy carbohydrate, you retain 3 grams of water. So weight doesn't equal fat. And that's, we've discussed this before. But I just wanted to make sure that I put that note out there to you as a reminder. Okay, so moderate carbs. You respond well, like I said, you indulge in refined carbohydrates, but it can just kick in those cravings. Another example, like for me, bread. You ever, you go to a restaurant, let's say go to Longhorn or you go to Carrabba's or wherever they might bring you bread before your meal. And I said, I'm just going to have one piece. Next thing I know, the whole loaf is gone and I didn't share it with anyone. It causes me it's a trigger for me when it's a highly refined carbohydrate. Like I really have to control it. So I just wanted to share that with you. Now, next, moderately low tolerance. This is 18 to 26 points. You gain weight. Weight gain happens easily and losing it is a challenge. You may have hormonal imbalances. This is what I'm talking about. You have high insulin levels. You have high cortisol levels. You have a sluggish thyroid. Your gut is off. Your liver is off. And highly refined carbohydrates have the potential to send you like just on a downward spiral. You're binging and carbs could cause bloating, excess, and even like that stuffed feeling that I talked about. So I can teeter back and forth from moderate to low tolerance if I allow it to go too far. So you tend to feel better and achieve better results on a slightly lower carb intake or non-processed carbs, but you still need enough to avoid low energy, to avoid that tank in your thyroid, to support testosterone production. As I've shared with you before, that carbohydrates is the preferred fuel of the brain. It's just getting in the quality. The issue with Americans, and I talk about this, and I want to tell you again, is that it's our ratios that are off. So carbs might be your issue because you've gone far too long, day in, day out, week after week, month after month, year after year, of doing not enough protein, not enough quality fat, and over a consumption of starchy carbohydrates for your muscle to fat ratio. And then you're not moving on top of it. You're not strength training. So that's moderate to low. Then you have very low carb tolerance. This is over 27 points, meaning that weight loss feels like a lifelong struggle. I say the word bagel right now, and your thighs are swelling as I say it. You're thinking bagel, and your thighs swell, your belly bloats. You get bloated, you get fatigued, you crave more, you get brain fog, you deal with inflammation, meaning you retain water easily. You're persistently hungry when you eat too many carbohydrates. Perfect example. Have you ever thought about when you start your day, you go to breakfast with friends because you have family in town, and you go and you have French toast, or you have pancakes, you have chicken and waffles. But then the rest of the day, you're still hungry and you're stuffed at the same time because your body's not processing it properly. You're insulin resistant, you're carb intolerant, and you get really uncomfortable when you consume too many carbohydrates. You're open to trying new solutions, but the issue is that you don't stick to any one plan. Thus, nothing seems to work long term. And it's hard for you to stick to a plan that is not customized to you. Okay. Part of it is a self-sabotaging approach or factor. And the second part of it is no wonder you're not sticking to anything because it's not customized to where your body's current state is. So we're not addressing that carb intolerance. And this is what we're going to do in this phase. So you have that, and then you have menopause. Menopause, man, it can points will vary. You go from moderate to low carb tolerance because during menopause, you're going through hormonal decline. There's so many different metabolism and hormonal shifts. It impacts your metabolism, your energy levels, your bone, your muscle health, and these symptoms and body responses can vary. So some women do best when they're going through these changes on a higher fat, moderate carb protein, to their weight and age. That can provide them a balance needed to support their hormone production, support their energy, brain function, and protect their muscle, support muscle growth, and protect their bone. But again, it can vary. It just depends. This is where there is always a testing phase. Because for me, you see, the higher fat that you have, so this might be kind of, I want you to think about going back to a little bit of following the hormone reset cleanse ratios, but then boosting up that carbohydrate. But for some individuals like me, I cannot do higher fat for a long period of time because it's too hard on my gallbladder, even though sugar is what kicks up your gallbladder, not necessarily quality fat, but it's also about my DNA. Shared with you before, my genes, my genetic expression shows that even though saturated fat is good for you, I process it differently than other individuals. So I kind of have to watch the amount I take in. So you see how all of this plays a role, all the different variables on how your body's going to respond. So now you have the hormone macro types. You're like, okay, what do I do? These are the formulas that we actually follow when it comes to your next phase or next step, because you were doing ratios for the cleanse. Then you did the reintroduction, and you might be doing like your kind of maintenance. But now understand our whole goal again is to make you a lean, mean, fat burning machine. And where you start is not where you stay. So with these numbers, what do they mean? Or what do these percentages mean? So like type 1, carb fueled hormone macro code. So you have a high carb tolerance. So you would do your protein for your weight, but then you would do 64% carbs, 36% fat based on the calories that you're taking in. Type 2, you can see the percentages. Type 3, same thing, protein and the percentages. Type 4, and then menopause type. You're like, oh, okay, so I have to figure out these percentages. No. The great part is that you don't have to do all the math. I'm sharing with you the formula in which we would do and the customization that we would do. I'm showing you how you can do it quickly and easily. Now, when it comes to your hormone macro code tolerance, what you're going to do is you do the profile or the diagnostic. You identify what your type is. And I'm going to venture to say 9 out of 10 women are a type 4 because low muscle to fat ratio, because of how many years you've just been off as far as your protein. You're going to input your information into the hormone macro code calculator. Okay, so this is going to help you. It's the carb tolerance calculator. With this, what you would do is, like, if you came up type 4, you're going to find the tab for type 4. And don't worry, I'm just going over this for the carb tolerance part of it, as far as the types. You actually will have 2 different modules showing you how all the different tabs when it comes to how to use the hormone macro code calculator and how to use the carb tolerance calculator. I'm just showing you quick. You don't have to know everything. All you have to do is go to the tab, and then what you do is you input your information. So I did my numbers. You see, I did my weight, and I did my height in inches. I did my age, and then what it's going to give me first is gives me my maintenance calories. The maintenance calories on the type 4 is all based on, like, the charts, because one of the things when I say the charts, like the protein charts, there's what you will see is there's different variables even for protein, because you hear me say, okay, 0.82 or 0.65 or 1-to-1, or you know, based on the protein chart, because there's so many different variables. If you're over 200 pounds, under 200 pounds, and that's what we're going to explain in the calculators. But what you can see is my maintenance, and it's showing the different levels of sedentary, light, moderate, heavy activity. Those are my maintenance numbers. And then to the right, it gives me my maintenance calories, and to the right, you can see where it gives me my protein grams, it's giving me my carb grams, and it's giving me my fat grams. Then you can see here, lose fat, gain muscle. My activity is very high, and I put my numbers in. It gave me my protein, it gave me my carbs, and it gave me my fat. What you do is that if you are type 4, that is your choice. When you did your hormone macro code, carb tolerance profile, it's a mouthful in it, diagnostic. And if you fall within type 1, type 2, or menopause, you have different options. Okay, because you can go right to your basic, what we call your TDEE, and we explain that more in the other modules. Or you could follow and just go along the tabs and do your type and follow that for 4 weeks. But if you came up type 3 or type 4, then you automatically, there's no options. You need to address your carb intolerance. And our goal is to help your body process carbs better. Then what you're going to do is you're going to follow it for 4 weeks. So you're going to figure out your numbers. You're going to hit the tab type 3 or type 4. You have all your numbers, and then you're going to go from there. And you're going to follow it for 4 weeks. And then from 4 weeks, you reassess. I talk about this more on the things when I talk about calories and macros, because make sure that you understand what you're going to need to do after the 4 weeks. You measure, monitor, adjust. Go and do the carb tolerance profile diagnostic again. See how your body's faring, and you either follow it for another 4 weeks or you move forward to the next step, which will be your hormone profile protocol or hormone profile diagnostic, identifying your imbalances, and then finding your plan for the next following months. So why your complete hormone macro code matters. Your carb tolerance is just one part of the full hormone macro code. It, like I said, includes your genetics, your muscle to fat ratio, your health status, your hormonal balance. And putting all these elements together help provide a comprehensive understanding on how your body responds to food, exercise, supplements, giving you the tools to craft a personalized plan that's sustainable and effective. Like I said, where you start is not where you stay. You're consistently and continually improving your body. And that's how we do it with the hormone macro code. Don't forget, if you have questions, go ahead and comment in our community, and or you can ask the questions on our live virtual sessions. And until then, guys, you got this. See you on the next session.